Marching towards us is the imposing airborne assault formation. Diverse airborne armaments in the formation are able to make long-distance airdrop, provide heavy-equipped maneuvering support. They are sharp weapons for the Army to make rapid response and deep strike.
Marching forward is the formation of long-range artillery for subjugation and precision strike. The two types of 191 box-shaped rocket artilleries are capable of making strike and providing support, expanding the Army's capability in terrestrial battle.
Next to be reviewed are three formations of the Maritime Combat Group. First comes the carrier-based air defense weapon formation. Being reviewed are four types of armaments that compose a three-dimensional system for air defense covering all ranges. The carrier-based laser weapons are strongly capable of precision destruction and consistent strike, defining the new landscape in maritime attack and defense.
The anti-ship missile formation consists of NG-15 missile and NG-19, NG-17, and NG-20 hypersonic missiles. The missiles can be deployed on multiple platforms such as carrier-based aircraft, surface vessels, and submarines, featuring long-range strike, fast speed, and strong destruction. They're sharp weapons for striking enemies on the sea.
Now on parade is the underwater weapon formation. Light and heavy torpedoes, as well as torpedoes propelled by rockets, are able to strike vessels and destruct undersea targets. The new special purpose naval mines can autonomously identify and attack targets. They are key forces for guarding strongholds and making waves in naval warfare.
Three formations of the Air Defense and Anti-Missile Operations Group will be inspected. Here comes the Early Warning Detection Formation. The four types of weapons that are being inspected are all new generations of domestically made, highly mobile radar. In group coordination, they can detect stealth aircraft and ballistic missiles far and near. They provide early warning for the country's airspace and aerial security.
Under review now is the anti-aircraft combat formation. It's a heroic unit.
As China is holding the military parade to mark the 80th anniversary to the end of World War II, commemorating 8 decades since Japan's surrender, US President Donald Trump has now reacted to the military parade in China.
Well, Trump had reacted on his social media platform expressing his best wishes for President Xi Jinping and the wonderful people of China, saying they have a great and lasting day of celebration. But the US president also posed a question here.
Now he wrote, and I'm quoting here, the big question here to be answered is whether or not President Xi of China will mention the massive amount of support and blood that the United States of America gave to China in order to help it secure its freedom from a very unfriendly foreign invader.
Well, Trump claimed that many Americans died in China's quest for victory and glory all those decades ago, and Trump said that he hopes that they are rightfully honored and even remembered for their bravery and sacrifice. Trump also expressed his best wishes for President Xi Jinping. And Trump also took a shot at the gathering of world leaders.
He said, quoting yet again, "Please give my warmest regards to Vladimir Putin and Kim Jong-un as you conspire against the United States of America." So there you go, a quip from the US President Donald Trump there.
Once again, for our viewers, these are live visuals coming in from Beijing, China, where China is holding a military parade on the 80th anniversary of World War II over their win.
Driving towards us is the cyberspace combat formation. The four types of equipment being inspected can command and control, detect and sense, and carry out cyber and electronic countermeasures in an integrated way. It is a new force that consolidates cyber defense and empowers joint force operations.
Here comes the electronic countermeasure formation. 5 types of their key equipment are displayed. They can detect and monitor all frequencies and subdue the enemy forces precisely. They are capable of aerial and space countermeasures and disconnecting the enemy networks. They are a crucial force in securing victory on joint multi-domain battlefields.
Now we have the information support formation. It is made up of vehicles capable of cloud computing, digital intelligence, forming air-ground networks, and integrating information on the battlefield. They can quickly establish new types of internet communication systems to support joint operations.
Next to be inspected is the Unmanned Combat Group, consisting of 3 formations. First, we have the Unmanned Land Combat Formation. These unmanned vehicles can carry out various tasks such as reconnaissance, assaults, mine and bomb defusing and removal, and squad assistance. They can be operated remotely and are able to move independently, work flexibly in groups, and make intelligent maneuvers. With them, the Army can make coordinated operations between manned and unmanned forces.
Now approaching is the Unmanned Maritime Combat Formation. Being reviewed now are new types of unmanned underwater vehicles and unmanned surface vehicles, as well as underwater mine deployment systems, which are capable of hidden deployment and blockade, independent target identification, and group-based attacks. They are extraordinary weaponry to win maritime combat.
Passing by next is the unmanned aerial combat. The new models of weaponry include reconnaissance and strike drones, unmanned wing planes, unmanned air domination planes, and unmanned aircraft carrier-borne helicopters. Covering a wide range of space, they can attack in a way that is difficult to be detected and can automatically coordinate with one another, creating a new model of future-oriented aerial combat scenario.
The two formations of the Logistics and Equipment Support Group are to be revealed. The Logistics Support Formation consists of field ambulances, field hospital installations, fuel transport and refueling vehicles, and field hot meal providing system. They have greatly enhanced modern logistics support for the troops.
Among the equipment support formation are light repair vehicles, wheeled emergency rescue and repair vehicles, disassemble and assemble repair vehicles, and electromechanical maintenance vehicles. It's like an armored hospital for weapons and equipment.
Next to be inspected is the Strategic Strike Group, consisting of 4 formations. First, we have the Cruise Missile Formation, with naval, air, and rocket forces being organized into a joint group. The Changjian 20A, Yingji 18C, Changjian 1000 missiles can implement long-range precision strikes, creating multi-domain deterrence.
Speed is key to victory. Now we have the hypersonic missile formation. The new types of missiles, Yingji 21, Dongfeng 17, and Dongfeng 26D, can fly at an extremely high speed, excel at breaking through blockage, and hit targets with high precision. They're vital to victory during all-weather combat.
Coming up next for inspection is the first nuclear missiles formation. The heavyweight weapons in the group include Jinglei-1 air-based long-range missile, Julang-3 submarine-based intercontinental missile, Dongfeng 61 land-based intercontinental missile, and the new land-based intercontinental missile of Dongfeng 31. It's the first time Bataan showcases its nuclear force in land, sea, and air together. They are mighty strategic deterrents to safeguard national sovereignty and dignity.
Now coming to us is the second nuclear missiles formation. The Dongfeng 5C liquid intercontinental strategic nuclear missile can strike any target around the world with its extensive shooting range. It is capable of providing defense and deterrence at any minute. With these strategic heavyweight weapons in hand, China has forged a shield of peace to its safety. The People's Military are loyally fulfilling their duties to safeguard the nation and its people, as well as world peace. Air echelons will soon arrive for inspection. The aircraft featuring early warning and reconnaissance, long-range strike, aerospace control operation, strategic delivery, and logistics support will show the PLA's increasing air combat capabilities. First flying past is the echelon of early warning and command aircraft. The echelon of Kongjing 500A early warning planes and J-16 fighters, the echelon of Kongjing 600 early warning planes, and J-15T shipboard fighters pass through in turn for inspection. The development and deployment of the latest domestically made early warning aircraft has remarkably improved the PLA's capabilities in command and control, early warning and detection, and coordinated strike.
Now approaching is the echelon of special purpose aircraft. Under the escort of J-16 fighters, wide line anti-submarine patrol aircraft, electronic reconnaissance aircraft, and radar jamming aircraft form the 3V formations. The deployment of the various types of special purpose aircraft has significantly increased the PLA's abilities in maritime and air reconnaissance, patrol and surveillance, and electromagnetic neutralization.
Closely following is the echelon of transport aircraft. Y-20A transport planes and Y-20B transport planes make up two V formations and are flying in a combat mode. New type multifunctional transport aircraft equipped with new domestically made engines feature long flight range, high loading capacity, and high speed. With the capacity of long-distance strategic delivery, they have carried out multiple major missions at home and abroad.
Now flying over is the echelon of bombers, composed of three V formations that consist of H-6N strategic bombers, H-6K bombers, and H-6J bombers. As a major force in long-range strike, the aircraft are capable of long-distance raid, patrol in a large area, and attacks outside its defense zone.
Now flying over Tiananmen Square is the echelon of 3 WION 208 airborne refueling tankers, which are ready to refuel H-6N bombers, J-16 fighters, J-20 fighters. The deployment of domestically made refueling tankers has enabled China's fighter planes to operate long-distance flights.
Now approaching are 2 V formations of fighter jets that include J-16D, J-20, J-35A, J-20S, and J-20A. With the fielding of multiple new type stealth fighters, the PLA is speeding up the fighter jets upgrades.
Now, above in the sky is the echelon of carrier-based aircraft composed of 2 V formations of J-15DH, J-15DT, J-35, and J-15T carrier-based aircraft. From ski jump takeoff to catapult takeoff, and from a single type to multiple models, China's carrier-based aircraft has undergone a leapfrog development.
Last flying past is the echelon of trainer aircraft. Seven J-10 aerobatics planes stage an aerial display of 14 colored smoke trails, symbolizing the 14 years of war of resistance against Japanese aggression and the bright prospects for the 1.4 billion Chinese people striving for national rejuvenation.
All markers fall out. Release the peace staffs.
Now we can see 80,000 doves flying into the sky. Let's honor our heroes, uphold justice, and safeguard peace. This land and people will forever remember the fallen heroes, whose spirits are immortal.
The commemoration of the 80th anniversary of the victory of the Chinese People's War of Resistance against the Japanese aggression and the World Anti-Fascist War has now concluded.
Hello everyone, you're watching WION World is One. This is World DNA with Haim. I'm Shivan. Lots more to discuss. Let's start with the headlines.
China hosts massive military parade in Beijing to commemorate victory in Second World War. The Loyal Wingman drone, hypersonic cruise missiles, air defense system, anti-ship ballistic missile and latest tanks make an appearance.
US President reacts to the military parade in China, takes a potshot at Russian President Vladimir Putin and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un as he extends his wishes to his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping, accuses the trio of conspiring against the US.
Trump says US forces attacked a boat carrying drugs to the US, killing 11 narco-terrorists. Trump claims these narco-terrorists belong to a gang controlled by Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro.
A US House panel releases a batch of documents from the investigation into sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. More than 33,000 pages of documents uploaded to the website of the House Oversight and Government Reform Committee after being handed over by the Justice Department.
At least 6 aftershocks, including one measuring 5.5, rattled eastern Afghanistan yesterday, prompting fears of more destruction. More than 1,400 people have died after a powerful earthquake shook the area this weekend. At least 25 people killed in 3 attacks in Pakistan, including 14 who died after a suicide bomber targeted a political rally in Balochistan. Another attack near the Iran border claimed 5 lives, while 6 soldiers were killed after a suicide attack on their base in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa.
A US judge rejects government's demand that Google sell its Chrome web browser as part of a major antitrust case, but imposes sweeping requirements to restore competition in online search, including sharing data with competitors.
All right, now US President Donald Trump said that US forces have attacked a boat carrying drugs to the United States, killing 11 narco-terrorists.
This is from a gang that he alleged was controlled by Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro. The move is a potentially significant escalation in the standoff between Caracas and Washington after the United States deployed 8 warships to Latin America in what it bills as a war on drug trafficking.
Now, Trump posted a video online of an open-top speedboat carrying a number of people before it exploded in a ball of flames. Trump had initially announced at the White House that the U.S. forces had shot out a boat, a drug-carrying boat, lots of drugs in that boat, without giving any details.
When you come out and when you leave the room, you'll see that we just, over the last few minutes, literally shot out a boat, a drug-carrying boat, a lot of drugs in that boat. And you'll be seeing that and you'll be reading about that.
He later posted a statement about the strike on his Truth Social network along with the black and white video of the exploding boat. He wrote, I quote here, "On my orders, U.S. military forces conducted a kinetic strike against positively identified Tren de Aragua narco-terrorists." He added that the strike occurred while the terrorists were at sea in international waters transporting illegal narcotics heading to the U.S. The strike resulted in 11 terrorists killed in action.
The U.S. president then went on to allege that the Tren de Aragua, a Venezuelan group he has frequently referred to as part of his crackdown on undocumented migration, was operating under the control of Nicolas Maduro. The United States designated the gang a terrorist organization earlier this year.
U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio also vowed to keep using the full might of the United States to eradicate drug cartels as he left for a visit to Mexico. Rubio told reporters that full might of the U.S. will be used against these cartels. However, he did confirm that these drugs were heading to the U.S.
These particular drugs were probably headed to Trinidad or some other country in the Caribbean, at which point they just contribute to the instability these countries are facing. So the president's been very clear that he's going to use the full power of America and the full might of the United States to take on and eradicate these drug cartels, no matter where they're operating from and no matter how long they've been able to act with impunity. Those days are over.
Now, the announcement of the strike followed days of mounting tensions between Washington and Caracas. There are currently 8 U.S. Navy ships involved in counter-narcotics efforts in Latin America.
Maduro has termed the deployment of the U.S. warships as a threat to Venezuela, accusing Trump of attempting to bring about a regime change. He has said that Venezuela was prepared for a period of armed struggle in defense of the national territory in case of an attack.
President Trump announced on Tuesday on his social media platform that he ordered U.S. forces to carry out a kinetic strike against the drug boat tied to the Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua. He said the vessel operating in international waters and transporting narcotics towards the United States was destroyed, killing 11 alleged narco-terrorists. Trump even shared a video of the strike after teasing the move earlier during an Oval Office event. The Pentagon later confirmed that it was a precision strike on a designated drug trafficking vessel. This comes as the U.S. boosts its naval presence in the Caribbean, assigning 8 Navy ships to Southern Command to counter drug cartels. Susan Tehrani reporting from New York for WION World as well.
At least 6 aftershocks, including one measuring 5.5 on the Richter scale, have rattled eastern Afghanistan 2 days after a powerful quake in the same region killed more than 1,400 people.
And injured 3,000 others. The Afghan Air Force has been pressed into action, carrying out search and rescue missions. Teams are racing against time to reach survivors in the rugged and remote terrain, where many are still feared to be trapped beneath the rubble. With no helicopter routes and only difficult road access, rescue operations are proving extremely slow.
So far, several nations have extended support. According to the Taliban government spokesperson Hafiz Zia Ahmad Takal, countries like India, Iran, Japan, UK and the European Union, they have all come forward. India has already flown its first relief consignment to Kabul. The shipment included 21 tons of emergency materials, blankets, tents, hygiene kits, medicines, wheelchairs, portable water purifiers and more.
Now, the UK has pledged £1 million in emergency relief, while the European Union is spending 130 tons of supplies and €1 million in aid.
The United Nations has appealed for urgent global support, warning that hundreds of lives remain at risk. It has already allocated $5 million from its emergency fund and assured that its teams in Afghanistan will spare no effort to help the quake victims.
But despite international assistance, the challenges remain formidable. Afghanistan continues to grapple with aid cuts, a fragile economy and the return of millions of people from Iran and Pakistan. The Taliban government, which came to power in 2021, has appealed for greater global help.
The epicenter of the earthquake was near Jalalabad, a city of 2 lakh people, less than 160 kilometers from Kabul and close to the Pakistan border. Afghanistan, situated on active fault lines in the Hindu Kush mountains, where the Indian and Eurasian plates meet, is highly prone to earthquakes. The deadliest in recent years struck in 2022, killing over 1,000 people. And this latest disaster is the 3rd major quake since the Taliban took control.
Now in Pakistan, at least 25 people have been killed in 3 separate attacks in a single day.
And these include 14 people who died after a suicide bomber targeted a political rally in Balochistan. Another attack that took place in Balochistan near the Iran border claimed 5 lives, while 6 soldiers were killed after a suicide attack on their base in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa.
Now, one of these blasts targeted a gathering of the Balochistan National Party in Balochistan's capital, Quetta. The blast took place in the parking lot of a stadium. The party's chief, Akhtar Mengal, had just finished speaking at a Quetta rally and was leaving the venue when the attack occurred. He said he was safe in a post on social media. The rally was held to commemorate the anniversary of the death of Akhtar's father, Sardar Ataullah, a former provincial chief minister. As per the police, it appeared to be a suicide bombing. Elsewhere in Balochistan, 5 paramilitary personnel were killed, 4 wounded when a homemade bomb exploded as their convoy passed through a district near the Iranian border.
No group immediately claimed responsibility for either of these attacks. In Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, 6 soldiers were killed in an attack on a paramilitary headquarters in the city of Bannu. A government official said a suicide bomber rammed an explosives-laden vehicle into the gate of this camp, after which 5 more suicide attackers entered the base. The ensuing exchange of fire lasted 12 hours, ending after the 6 attackers were killed. The militant group Ittihad-ul-Mujahideen Pakistan claimed responsibility for that attack.
Now, according to available data, more than 430 people, mostly members of the security forces, have been killed this year in violence carried out by armed groups fighting the state in Balochistan and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa provinces.
And Indonesia is facing its worst unrest in years. Protests over government spending and lawmakers' perks have turned deadly,
leaving at least 10 dead, 20 missing. Now, solidarity demonstrations are emerging across borders, including in neighboring Malaysia.
Now, in a latest obtained video, chaos can be seen inside a university building in West Java. Protesters carried an injured person while others coughed as police fired tear gas and rubber bullets outside. Similar clashes have rocked campuses across the country, raising fears over student safety.
And in support of the protests in Indonesia, dozens of Malaysians gathered outside of the Indonesian embassy in Kuala Lumpur.
Mr. Prabowo Subianto, we Malaysian university students are closely watching every move and every violation of human rights you commit against Indonesian students and citizens. We will not remain silent and will continue to amplify the voices of our friends there.
Amid all of this, Indonesian President Subianto has left for China for its Victory Day parade on Wednesday, a trip that was initially cancelled due to intensified protests in Indonesia. Prabowo Subianto will directly fly back to Indonesia the same day.
Indonesia's human rights body is investigating the 20 people reported missing. The UN has urged Jakarta to ensure its forces follow international law, while 7 officers have been detained over the deadly police incident.
Now, the protest torched in August 2025 over lavish perks for lawmakers in Indonesia, and since then the unrest has escalated nationwide, with demonstrators looting businesses and blazing politicians' homes. Security forces have responded with tear gas, rubber bullets and water cannons, prompting global calls to investigate excessive force.
Under pressure, President Prabowo has promised to cut lawmakers' perks and pledged accountability for police abuse. But with protests still raging and tensions spilling beyond Indonesia's borders, the crisis shows no signs of easing. All right, in New Delhi has signaled that it is continuing to negotiate a trade deal with the US president. Trump has claimed that India has offered to cut tariffs.
And that indicates that both countries are keeping that door open for a trade deal and for tensions to ease. While speaking at the Oval Office, Trump highlighted that US-India ties have stressed, and he stressed the need for fair trade, citing Harley-Davidson and calling past relations between US and India one-sided over high tariffs. Listen to this.
We get along with India very well, but India has, you have to understand, for many years it was a one-sided relationship. Only now, since I came along, and because of the power that we have with tariffs, India was charging us tremendous tariffs, about the highest in the world. They were about the highest in the world, number one. And we therefore weren't doing much business with India, but they were doing business with us because we weren't charging them. Foolishly, we weren't charging them. So they would send in massive, everything they made, they'd send it in, pour it into our country. Therefore, it wouldn't be made here, which is a negative. But we would not send in anything because they were charging us 100% tariffs. And, I'll give you an example. Harley-Davidson. Harley-Davidson couldn't sell into India. There was a 200% tariff on a motorcycle. So what happens? Harley-Davidson went to India and built a motorcycle plant. And now they don't have to pay tariffs.
In a social media post on Monday, Trump said that India offered to reduce its tariffs on US goods to zero, but he did not mention when the concession was made. Trump added that it's getting late and India should have made the offer years ago. While the Indian government has not officially responded to Trump's remarks, the country's Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal said both sides continue to engage to reach a trade agreement.
I quote here, "We are in dialogue with the US for a bilateral agreement," said Piyush Goyal. Now, there are no formal talks currently between the trade negotiators after a US team cancelled its trip to India in August. However, Goyal's comment suggests that both nations are keeping that informal communication channel open. India was the first to jump into discussions for a trade deal and had made several concessions early on in these negotiations that included reduced tariffs on industrial goods such as auto components and pharmaceuticals to zero if the US reciprocated However, no agreement was reached after 5 rounds of negotiations, and the US was frustrated with New Delhi's reluctance to compromise on key issues such as expanding its markets for dairy and agricultural goods, where US has been wanting an inlet. Later on, Trump started threatening India with further tariffs over its oil purchases from Russia.
Separately, India has challenged high US tariffs on some copper imports at the World Trade Organization. The Trump administration slapped 50% tariffs on global imports of semi-finished copper items such as pipes, wires, rods, sheets and tubes last month. India told the WTO that US duties were safeguard measures and not notified by Washington as per the Geneva-based trade body's rules.
In a notification to the trade body, New Delhi said, I quote here, India looks forward to receiving a prompt reply to this request from the United States and to setting a mutually convenient date and venue for the above-mentioned consultations.
For more on this, our correspondent Susan Tehrani has sent us this report. Listen to this.
On Wednesday, President Trump once again blasted India over what he called tremendous tariffs, citing Harley-Davidson motorcycles as an example, while saying he gets along well with India. He also said that U.S. goods face duties as high as 200%, while Indian products enter American markets with few barriers. Trump argued Harley was forced to open a plant in India to avoid those tariffs. His comments come just days after a federal appeals court ruled that most of his emergency-based tariffs on countries like China, Canada, and Mexico were illegal, saying the law doesn't authorize a president to impose duties. The White House insists the tariffs remain in effect and vows to fight on. Meanwhile, Trump has already imposed reciprocal 25% tariffs on Indian goods and an extra 25% levy on oil linked to Russia, putting overall duties to 50%, among the world's steepest. Susan Tehrani reporting from New York for WION World as well.
And world number 2 Carlos Alcaraz dispatched Ezi Leheshka in straight sets in another dominating performance at the US Open.
The Spaniard has looked flawless and is yet to drop a set in New York. 5-time Grand Slam champion Alcaraz laid down.
Well, it feels great, you know, hearing those words from my opponent today.